You're muted, Dr. Gwendolyn.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to Building Resilience in Businesses and Individuals. Before we get started with sessions 1 and session 2, we want to take a moment to give the floor to Dr. Kirsten Wilson to discuss with us some of the Zoom etiquettes and logistics before we get started. Kirsten, take it away.
So a reminder, you can keep yourself on mute unless you're called upon. And then you can keep your video on or off, whatever feels most comfortable to you. And then as we go through each section, put your comments, your questions in the chat. And then at the end, we'll come back around and answer them for each of us. There are two different views on the top of your screen. You have a choice of speaker view or gallery view. So you can just see the speaker, or you can see everyone on the side. If you don't want to see yourself but want to keep your video on, you can right click and hide self view. And you can feel free to take care of any of your needs during the call. If you do get up and have your video on, turn your video off before you get off from where you're seated.
Good morning. I am Dr. Gwendolyn Abington. I am the CEO and owner of Claytac Consulting, a team building and conflict resolution business. I don't want to really read off the list of things that I have here because all of you can read. I really want to talk a little bit about why Claytac Consulting exists. We exist to serve you. We want to be in relationship with every business, small, medium, and large. My long history is in the healthcare profession as a clinical laboratory scientist. Claytac was born out of the last decade. I've been working on the concept of Claytac Consulting as I traveled into hospitals, small, medium, and large. I began to look at and be asked to help with team building strategies to help teams work together. I also dealt with quite a bit of conflict within the teams. And I developed a idea of no big I's or little U's among the team. If we could just get that concept in mind, that we would be able to function like a well-oiled machine. As I went through the different assignments that I had, I began to write down what is similar among businesses in the hospital realm and the clinic realm. What is similar? What is different? And if what would make changes well enough for them to be able to be a dynamic team, a perfect 10 team, which you'll hear about later in this presentation. Right now, I think I want to stop there because you'll get the sense as we go along in the presentation, and let my colleague that I'll be working with on the first section introduce herself. Lauren, take it away.
Thanks, Gwendolyn. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lauren Christensen, the owner and principal instructional designer of Christensen Designs. I graduated from Southern Oregon University in 2018 with a bachelor's in communication digital cinema, thinking I was going to go into the film industry as either a director or video editor. But after working in news production as a video editor, I decided that that wasn't where I wanted to go. So after some career searching and professional development, I stumbled upon instructional design, and I started my education in late 2020 and then went to a trade school for instructional design called the Idol Academy in January of this year. And an instructional designer is just a fancy word to say I create learning tools for employees and for businesses. So if your business has a performance problem that can be solved through training, then I can come in and create a skills or knowledge training. Some examples of what I do are onboarding training, communication skills for sales teams, cybersecurity for compliance, and any knowledge or skill gap specific to your business. And after I graduated from the Idol Academy, I started Christensen Designs in April. So my business is still pretty new, but as you can see, I got my Idol mug, and this is like a trophy saying that I reached 3 clients in August. So instructional design is definitely a field that's growing, and the learning and development industry businesses are becoming more aware of how important it is to upskill your team. And upskilling creates resilience because your employees are much more confident when they actually know what they're doing. And they know that this training isn't just to check a box or to just try and fix a problem, but it's not actually going to work. So Dr. Gwendolyn and I are going to go through a scenario in just a second, and we'll show you how instructional design and team building can build resilience within your business.
Thank you. But before Lauren and I get started, let's introduce you to the rest of this brilliant team. You heard the beautiful music as you entered the room. So first up is Linda Smith. Linda, unmute and introduce yourself.
Well, good morning. My name is Linda Smith, pianist with Notes of Celebration. I love to play memorable music for weddings, events, and retirement homes. You can listen to some of my music on my Facebook business page, Notes of Celebration. Playing your favorite music brings my tagline to life, music that touches the heartstrings.
I need to unmute. My name is Debbie Moss. My business is called Simply Whole by Debbie, and I am a functional medicine health coach.
I'm Dr. Kirsten Wilson. I'm a naturopathic physician focused on brain and nervous system disorders and getting people's brain back on track. My business is Tree Root Wellness, and I also work at MediPro Holistic Health in Beaverton, Oregon.
Awesome. Welcome, welcome, welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us today. I believe that you will have many takeaways out of our both sessions in the workshop today. Again, this is building resilience in businesses and individuals. I am Dr. Gwendolyn Abington, and I will be working alongside of my colleague and business owner, Lauren Christensen of Christensen Design today to discuss resilience in businesses. In this first portion of the workshop, we want to let you know that there will be some interactive activities throughout this first session.
We want to take you into a patient safety scenario in a small clinical laboratory and show you how each of our businesses could help your business with both team building and instructional design in order to build resilience among employees.
Is everyone stretched and ready to go? This is our first interactive activity. I want you to answer this question. What does resilience mean to you? Again, what does resilience mean to you? In a few words or a phrase. If you want to put it in the chat, you can, or you can raise your hand. And as we see your hand, we will call upon you and you can answer, what does resilience mean to you? We have one that says, keeping going no matter what. Is there anybody else that wants to join us? Because we are talking about building resilience. All right. We will then go on and talk about what the experts say about resilience and what it is. According to Eva Selhub, MD, contrary to what many people think, resilience has nothing to do with avoiding stress, hardship, or failure in life. Instead, it's about knowing that life is filled with both joy and adversity. And when hardships happen, you'll be prepared to take it on, learn from it, and become stronger as a result. Resilience confers the ability to bounce back easily and thrive in the face of life's most inevitable challenges. And before we go on, I think we got another response in the chat box that says ability to handle stressful situations. You're spot on. And as Lauren continues, we will talk more about resilience in business. Lauren, take it away.
Yeah, so in this workshop, Dr. Gwendolyn and I will focus on resilience in business. We think resilience is about building connections and opening communication. Creating expectations for your employees can build resilience and make your business stronger. So when hardships do happen, your business and team will be prepared and confident to handle the situation.
Let's get started in our scenario. Today, we will be taking a patient safety scenario and building upon that scenario throughout this presentation. We will look at the team structure, the team analysis, and how instructional design can help you build resilience in your businesses. The scenario is Tracy is a lab manager in the small clinic laboratory working from home. Tracy has an on-site medical technologist, Cindy, that is leading the 3 phlebotomists. One of the phlebotomists is new and 2 are experienced. Tracy decides to make an on-site visit to the clinic laboratory. When she arrives into the phlebotomy area, she almost trips over several boxes that are blocking the entrance and exit door with new supplies.
She realizes that this is a patient safety issue and wonders how she might address the issue with the on-site team. Tracy realizes the team has safety training, but it's pretty out of date and they don't talk about how to put away supplies. So Tracy's gonna Tracy has contacted Claytac Consulting to help her team through communication strategies, tactics, and tools to build a functional team dynamic, while Christensen Designs will put together an educational training component to resolve the patient safety issue.
All right, let's dive in. What is Claytac Consulting's approach? We began everything with a needs assessment. We want to know what is going on with your team. What are the needs? Why does this problem exist in all of the team members' idea of things? We also do a SWOT analysis. You're finding out the team's strengths, their weaknesses, their opportunities to grow from the situation, and threats or barriers to what it is that the situation is. We have that same approach if we are working with your business. We want to first collect the data, look at the data, and analyze the data. Through our 6x4-point plan, we would get started to build strategies, tactics, and tools for you. We start with that 4-point method, which is to analyze the data. We want to then identify the issues that exist. Once we've discovered the issues that exist in this small clinic laboratory to getting those boxes out from blocking the entrance and exit doors, then we would go and put together the rest of the story, take it to the manager and the lead, and give them what we think are strategies that could work to resolve this patient safety issue. Once that we have advised and the manager agrees that these are ways forward, then we can get started to execute the plan that we have put together. And the rest of the presentation, I'll be demonstrating the 6-point plan.
So my first step is to gather information. I already know that the supply boxes are blocking the entry and exit doors, which are creating a patient safety issue. But I don't know why. So my first question is, why are the employees putting the supply boxes in front of the door? Surely they would know that the boxes could become a safety issue. So there must be an underlying issue that I'm not seeing. After talking to the employees, I learned that none of them have been trained on how or where to put the supplies, specifically the needles and the blood bags. And because there's lack of communication between them and management, the 3 phlebotomists have put the boxes in the only place where there's enough space for such a large amount of supply, the doorway. So the problem is a skills gap. The employees don't know how or where to put the supplies. My training will focus on teaching them how to do this. Let's see how Dr. Gwendolyn is going to strategize for team building.
Thank you, Lauren. As we see here, and we've talked about that we were going to analyze the data, identify the needs and issues of the team after the manager and I have agreed on the findings and what we need to do to move forward in that method and plan. We begin the fun part. We are now at execution of the 6-point plan. What do you mean the 6-point plan? We'll keep watching. We will go through them piece by piece. In the 6-point plan, we always start and begin with fun. Just like the interactive activity this morning we started with. We want people to loosen up, determine what their place is within this team so that we can foster teamwork and connection as we begin to build upon the strategies, tactics, and tools that will work for your team and this small clinic laboratory team. But before we continue on, let us go over to Lauren to see what she has put together in the instructional design area.
Thanks, Dr. Gwendolyn. So step 2 is figuring out what kind of training is best, what form of training. There's 3 options: instructor-led, virtual instructor-led, and e-learning. So we've identified the root of the problem for the patient safety issue, lack of training. The employees need to learn how to put the needles for drawing blood safely away, and they also need to know where to put the blood back. So what do you all think is the best training? Go ahead and put in the chat I for instructor-led, V for virtual instructor-led, or E for e-learning. So instructor-led, the difference with instructor-led is that the learners get feedback in real time. For example, trade schools for construction or plumbing is a good example. The learners can actually physically do the learning. It's a very hands-on approach that you don't get from virtual or e-learning. But the benefit for virtual instructor-led is that if many employees are remote, you want to save money for hotel and plane tickets, then you can just have a virtual training via Zoom, and you still get feedback in real time, but it's not a hands-on approach. So this training would be good for public speaking if everyone is in a different area. And then the third one is e-learning, which is the most popular and cost-effective, but it's not, you don't get feedback in real time, and there's not an instructor to help you if you get stuck. But you can learn at your own pace and on your own at any time. So what kind of training do you guys think is best? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Good job, Stacy. So my recommendation, oh, and Ashley, nice. My recommendation is instructor-led. Virtual instructor-led is a good idea, but the learners need hands-on practice. And so since this issue requires the learners to physically put the needles where they need to go and the blood bags where they need to go, instructor-led training would be the best. So knowing this, I speak with Cindy, the medical technologist, and Tracy, and we've decided to ask one of the experienced phlebotomists to be the trainer. We want someone that's on the team and that's well respected so that the learners can actually connect with her and build resilience that way. So also as an incentive, Tracy has agreed to give the phlebotomist that's now going to be the trainer a raise, since this training will add to her workload. That doesn't always happen, but since this is a fictional scenario and I can control what happens, I'm going to say that's what happens. So the experienced phlebotomist agrees to be the trainer. The next step is designing the facilitator and participant guide. But before we go there, let's see what Dr. Gwendolyn's working on with her team building.
Thank you, Lauren. You heard me say earlier, the perfect 10 team. Everyone would like for their team to be a perfect 10. Here at Claytac Consulting, we start with a fun activity. It is intentional that we start with a fun activity. We want everyone to foster an attitude that says we're in it to win it together. We want to make sure that teamwork is fostered through a connection with the team members. We also know scientifically that if people are having fun, they emit endorphins and hormones that are called the happy or feel good hormones They are good for learning, for memory, and they emit the pleasurable sensation. You'll hear a little bit more about these in session 2, but these are the things we're trying to get people moving and engaged and being a part and wanting to be a part of the team. So teamwork being built by fun is our first approach. Once you get connection, once you get the team connected and working together, collaboration should be a naturally occurring event within this team structure, because we are looking for the teams to have resilient, healthy, functional communication with each other. Again, most of ClayTAC's strategies, tactics, and tools are predicated on the 3 C's that I just mentioned: connection to foster teamwork, collaboration in order to bring that fun and that teamwork session together. Also, resilient communication, healthy communication, learning how, even when there's a struggle or a stretch, to be able to work together as one unit. This is the crux of this perfect team. Again, let me repeat. I talked about the 6x4 point plan, and now you've heard it, and I will be demonstrating with you all a little bit later. But the method is to analyze the situation, identify the issues that need to be dealt with, advise the management team after you've looked over the data as to strategies, tactics, and tools that will work. And then we execute the 6-point plan, which is teamwork, resilience within the team, fun, always with a capital F, connection, collaboration, and communication. Without these plans, you can't build a team. Everyone in our new normal is looking for strategies to become resilient, because things in the last 18 months have been turned upside down for organizations, working some from home, some in the office, still having to meet your bottom line, meet deadlines, learning how to work as a team on Zoom. So many variables. But this 6x4 point plan, if it's executed appropriately, should work. And the last thing I will say on this particular slide is evaluation. At the end of our presentations today, we will be asking you to evaluate this workshop. ClayTAC Consulting always ends business with an evaluation and feedback. We only grow and become better as a team, as an organization to serve your organization, when we know what things we did well, what things could have been improved upon, and how we can approach your business in a different manner. And of course, we always love feedback. That's wonderful. But we know that everyone is still striving to be that perfect 10 team, and so is ClayTAC Consulting. Before we demonstrate, though, we want to go over to Lauren and see what is happening in the instructional design area for this small clinic laboratory team. Lauren, take it away.
Thanks, Dr. Gwendolyn. So step 3 for my process is the instructional strategy, or facilitator guide. What we're giving to the trainer to guide her in this training, what she is expected to say, what activities she is going to use, and the time frame. So now that we have our training, we need to design how she's going to teach the class. And this is what I'm thinking. It'll be a one 95-minute training where there's 2 trainees and 1 trainer. Then every new hire will receive this training hereafter. The determination if this training is working will be through feedback, which Dr. Gwendolyn touched on in her team building method. So for the first step, there'll be a 30-minute instruction. The instructor will show the phlebotomist how to put away fake needles and where to put the blood bags. For the training, we'll be using fake needles to avoid injury. So that way, if you accidentally get pricked, there won't be any injury and you'll know to not do that next time. It's a safe way to fail, a safe environment, and there won't be any hurtful consequences. So next, there'll be a 30-minute practice. The phlebotomists will each get a chance to practice while asking questions. This is the receiving feedback in real time that I was talking about that you get with an instructor. And then after that, since it's been going on for an hour, we're going to give the learners a 5-minute break to go to the bathroom or get a drink of water, do whatever they need to do. It's good to have a break between an hour or 75 minutes of training. Then we'll do a 30-minute teach session. At the end of the training, the phlebotomists will teach each other every step, and they'll use candy as a motivator if the other learner that they're teaching does the step correctly. So this is a good way to solidify their learning and to build camaraderie and resilience. When you're teaching someone else, it shows that you actually understand the material and cements the learning into one's long-term memory. Also, we need to think about the location of the training and if we need any media. Luckily, since this training is with a small team and it's a very specific problem, we don't need any media like a projector or Wi-Fi or computer. Since the 3 learners can just, or the 2 learners can just watch the trainer in real time, and she doesn't need to put like a camera showing herself on a big projector because there's only 2 learners. And the location will be the clinic so that the learners can have an accurate understanding of where the needles and blood bags should go. So whereas if we did it at like a warehouse or someone else's classroom, the learners wouldn't know where to actually put the needles. They know how to do it in that specific location, but not the clinic, which is not helpful. So the location will just be at the clinic. And so step 4 is the participant guide, which is very similar to the facilitator guide in that it guides the learner after the training. So it'll be either infographic or fill in the blank or something like that. But before I reveal what it is, let's do an interactive activity with Dr. Gwendolyn.
Thank you, Lauren. Yes, we are going to stretch our brains and mind and get involved in this question. I am going to split you off. My colleague Lauren is going to put you in break rooms as team 1 and team 2. You will be randomly assigned into these rooms. When you get into the room, I want you to pick someone that will report back when we come back for the discussion portion of this team building activity. You'll be asked the same multiple choice question in both groups that will have 4 possible answers to them. You will be in the break room for about 6 minutes, giving you a robust time to talk, to be able to hopefully get through the 3 C's, that connection, collaboration, and then on to communication. When you come back to the room for the 4 minutes that we will discuss, I will be first asking the person that you chose to report back to give a response to how the team went through their processes. Then I will open it up and ask a couple questions to the whole group, both team 1 and team 2, whoever wants to open up and respond. Those responses can be either in the chat when we get back, or raise your hand, and when we call on you, for you to be able to unmute. Let's go to the question. The question, and if you have something to write on, because in the chat, you can't see it when you go to the breakout room. So maybe someone or multiples of you write down the question. What is the most effective approach for Tracy to work collaboratively with her team to resolve the patient safety issue? The 4 possible choices are: yell at everyone about the patient safety issue, yell at just the medical technologist, Cindy, because after all, she was in charge. C, collaborate with the team to develop a plan of action to prevent further patient safety issues. Gently remind the team of patient safety protocol, and then give a stern warning against reoccurrence. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to write this down, and then Lauren will send you guys off to a breakout room to discuss this very question. And then on the flip side, I'll ask you, your reporter, back, what response did the team agree to, and then we'll discuss from there. Lauren, about 30 seconds, so it gives them an opportunity to write down the choices as well. Debbie, that's a great point. Yes, they can take a picture of it if it's the easiest route for them to remember quickly. All right, Lauren, you can send to the breakout room at this point.
Hi, Kirsten. For some reason, I didn't want to put you in a team. So I just put you in a separate room.
That's fine. I saw that, so I came back.
Oh, don't see anything.
If you guys didn't already know the answer, we would discuss it, because we have a big enough group too.
Okay, well, I assigned Angelica to team 1, but just don't go in.
Right, she just didn't go because she is the one helping filter the chat, remember?
Yeah.
And then will help us with team 2 or session 2 as well.
Yeah.
And I've got her with a 6-minute timer on, Lauren.
I think, can
So-
you guys see the countdown? It's at 3 minutes and 49 seconds.
Yes, if you open the breakout room.
Yep, I see it.
Oh, yeah, I do too now. So Angie, you can quit timing. Technology, a wonderful thing.
When it works.
And this is a good space if you guys had to go get something to drink or do a comfort break or whatever. It's a good space.
Drinking my tea.
I bought green tea based on your presentation, you guys' presentation. So hopefully it'll lower my anxiety and less stress.
There you go. I have an herbal tea that I'm drinking. But I had my ashwagandha in my smoothie this morning.
Oh,
Every morning, that and that matcha. I like them both.
Yeah.
and I have a diffuser going.
I do, right?
I
in
said
front of
I
me.
do.
No, I do
Right.
too.
Oh, yay.
We just had someone join us.
Good morning,
Okay.
Debbie. I'm sorry I'm late. I had another meeting, but I wanted to jump on.
You are great. They're in, we had a breakout room session, so you just hang tight and everybody will come back in a second.
Oh, okay, because I was going to send her out in case she wanted to be involved, Debbie.
Well, you
So,
can. There's a minute and 49 seconds left.
I'm okay.
Yes.
I'll just hang out here.
All right. No problem, Marcy.
They're having an interactive discussion right now.
Is on the list that involves team because it says
Lauren, it will just automatically kick them out. Is that right?
Yeah.
Got it.
Oh, okay. It's giving them an extra minute. So it'll automatically close in 50 seconds.
I think you can also close it down manually.
Oh yeah, that's true. I think it's too late. I already did the automatic. Sorry, Dr. Glenn.
It is perfectly fine, Lauren. Hopefully they're having robust discussion. And once I call on team 1, if you'll move to the next slide, it would be great.
You got it.
All right. The question was, I want to just have in brief a discussion with everyone about the question that you went to the breakout room with, which was, what is the most effective approach for Tracy to work collaboratively with her team to resolve the patient safety issue? You had 4 choices, which was yell at everyone about the patient safety issue, yell at the medical technologist, after all, she was the one in charge, collaborate with the team to develop a plan of action to prevent further patient safety issues, or D, gently remind the team of patient safety protocol and then give a stern warning against reoccurrence. Next slide. Team 1, you are up. Whoever your spokesperson is, I want to hear from them. If you could raise your hand,
Who's in
whoever the
team 1?
Team 1,
Lauren,
Lauren, was consisted of?
Let's see.
Remy, I think we were team 1.
oh, we were okay. So, I personally was gonna go with answer A, but we all agreed that answer C was probably more effective in the long term, and we thought that D was kind of the follow up step to take after C.
Okay. And team 2, who is your spokesperson?
I'm team 2.
Awesome.
And I'm the spokesperson. And we identified the best choice for what for the team. So we chose well, I can't remember which one we chose. I think we chose C.
I can go back. That's
Thank you,
Yeah.
Lauren.
C.
And if you'll
I was
just
about to
leave
flip
it,
back up.
leave it there on this slide, this would be
Okay.
fantastic.
And so we chose C because it involved more of a team building strategy. And we weeded out A, B, and D for those particular reasons.
Awesome. Now, this is to anyone in the room. As you went into your different breakout rooms, was it an easy process for you guys to find connection as it relates to the 3 C's in the plan: connection, collaboration, and communication? How did that work? Was it easy to come together and connect so that you could have this discussion? Or did you find it difficult and it was kind of just quiet in the room as you decided who would be the spokesperson and some of the housekeeping items? Anybody? Raise your hand or put in the chat. Okay, team 2, it looks like, jumped right in. which is wonderful. Team 1, did you guys experience a similar thing? Anybody?
Yeah, it was pretty, we hesitated between C and D at first, but it seemed like C made more sense to start with, because yeah, like Team 2 said, it's a team building.
Yeah, and
activity.
Dr. and the reason that was because just having worked in corporate America before and just thinking of the scenario, I feel like there would have already been patient safety protocols enforced and everybody should have known them. So I think my approach as a manager would have been to remind everybody about that and then watch them over the next few weeks to see if that was enough. And then if not, then collaborate with the team to develop a plan of action. So to address the situation, but definitely overall engaging the team and having them help decide how to move forward and how to resolve the issue is always a better bet in general, because then they have more skin in the game, right?
Excellent.
And I would like to,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, with team 2, I do apologize. I was on another computer with no audio, so I changed computers. But anyway, looking at, I agree with the team, with our team, that C would be the most appropriate. And what we did was, as I was on looking, someone established or order of who was going to report, and that falls in line with the working together as a team, collaborating, determining who's going to do what in the, within the team. And anytime that you're working with a team, the communication between, whether it be staff or whether it be personnel, is great, because you want to always have buy-in. The research shows that if you have anywhere from 70 to 80% of the buy-in of the people who are participating in any decision, it is great. And I like the transformational leadership style of which falls right in line with this, with the collaboration and working together to come up with a decision.
Is there anyone else that wants to put input into this interactive activity and helping Tracy and Cindy figure out what the best plan of action is? If not, you all are brilliant. I tell you, brilliant. The answer is C, for all the reasons that you guys stated. Tracy should collaborate with the team to develop a plan of action to prevent further patient safety issues. If you go into any situation, all of us are old enough to know when we've had a manager come in and just start yelling. I used to call it wigging out. Oh my God, here he or she goes wigging out. And I'd have to still myself, but I may have heard about that much information that they were trying to say to me. Yelling is never the approach to get someone's attention and get things moving. When you are collaborating and having fun, even in this scenario in the laboratory, they get many large amounts of supplies. But if you're having fun and collaborating, oh, this phlebotomist and that phlebotomist is busy, I'm not right now, so I'll move 2 or 3 boxes and perhaps switch out when it's time for me to draw, and then they can put some boxes away, because you're working collaboratively to get things done. I put D in there on purpose because DA part is great. You want to give a gentle reminder to them that we had patient safety training not long ago. What if that had been a patient? There might have been liabilities for us as a hospital or a clinic setting. all the structures and reminding them, but giving it to them in a way that's gentle, that's able to help those endorphins open up and say, oh, she's right. Tracy is right. We should move these boxes. We should form some type of system to make sure that it works and works well so this doesn't happen again. But when she put the stern warning on it, stern, when I hear somebody being overly stern, like you better not let this happen again. If I show up here and these boxes are in the doorway, I've tuned Tracy out again. When she comes at me that way, because we are adults, we all know how to go about doing our jobs. Also, with her collaborating, they could put up schedules as to phlebotomists, new phlebotomists. On week 1 of September, you move the supplies when they come in. Phlebotomist 2, the next week it's yours. Or even bringing Cindy from the back as the lead medical technologist when she's not running tests, she could offer some assistance. So there's so many different scenarios as they collaborate together. They could come up with a plan of action. How was it for you all in using the connection, the collaboration, and communication to come to your conclusion of C? Because both teams, after some discussion, I found that you guys did land on the C. Was the discussion robust? Was there somebody pulling and pushing in your group that no, it has to be D, it has to be that? Because I know A and B, you guys surely eliminated pretty quick. Anybody? All right, I'm gonna start singing. In the team, girls just want to have fun. You don't want to hear me sing. So somebody, anybody answering this question. I knew I'd get somebody.
We don't mind your singing.
No, Brian Hogue minds my singing. He said that we communicated about all the options, which is great. That was the point, is coming in and looking at everything and looking at pieces, because that's what you do as the team leadership, as the team members, looking at it from an introspective as well as extroverted out. How is it that this team can work together? What is the team dynamic? How can we collaborate and work together? We also, like I said, we always want to have fun in every activity that we do. My silly speak in this is to step outside of my comfort zone singing. And if nothing else, that part will be memorable. The last thing on this slide that I want to ask anybody willing to answer is, one, was it fun to get in a room and put all your minds together on this activity? And if you want to share at least one takeaway that you have gotten so far out of building resilience in businesses. Ashley says that it was a pleasure collaborating with you all. Wonderful presentation, ladies. This was great. And then she is having to go at this point. But thank you, Ashley Hill, for attending. Anybody else?
A good takeaway for me is to be able to work together with people, collecting the knowledge from other people's minds, pulling it together to how to solve problems. We have a numerous amount of problems in the world, but then most people do not elevate to the level of solving the particular problems or issues. And see, one of the things when I looked at the question, we were looking at what is best, what is the most appropriate way to get the success, and we're talking about a company, the complete success out of all people or as many as possible. And so when you look at A and B, if you look at the psychological perspective, like you said, Dr. Abington, is that when you yell at someone, that's like a shutdown, automatic shutdown, physiologically and emotionally. And then, but then when you look at C, let me jump to D real quick. Like you said, there's some good in there. Okay, well, let me talk a little bit. But then you throw out just the similar characteristics of A and B. You get stern, same physiological perspective. So with that, through the process of elimination, C. And so I love always to understand the mindset of people, where they're coming from. And I think another way of saying it is through, using diversity, using other people's idea to come up with a solution.
Thank you, Linda. I like what Brian Hogue put in the chat, and Remy agrees with him. A and B made us giggle. So yes, fun. Thank you, Brian and Remy. At this time, I am going to, unless there's anyone else, close out this discussion. But I thank you all for the participation in this activity. And at this point, I'm going to turn it to Lauren to see what she has in instructional design for us. I'm learning so much from her. Lauren, take it away.
Thank you. So step 4 is creating the participant guide. This is the second to last step. So we know how the training is going to go. We have the facilitator guide with the location and time and what to talk about. Now we have to make sure the learner takes something away. You always want to give the learner something tangible. So I designed a graphic to go on the back of their ID badges. That way, if they ever forget where the blood bags or the safety needles go, they can just look at the graphic on their ID badge, and it's easily accessible. They can use it as a cheat sheet. And then once they put the supplies in the right space, they won't need the cheat sheet anymore, but it's easily accessible if they ever forget. So the whole point, well, a big point for the participant guide is not to shame the learner for forgetting the information in the training. It's not going to necessarily go right to their long-term memory after the training. So a participant guide helps solidify that long-term learning. And building resilience is all about being prepared and knowing what to do at stressful situations. It's about having the confidence and knowledge and skills to know what to do so that your business, when it's hit with hardship, it doesn't fall completely because the employees have resilience. And then the final step is arguably the most important step, because bad training leads to unskilled workers. So these are the 2 learning objectives that I came up with to figure out how to assess the training. Since there's no numbers or data, hard data to find out if the employees are actually putting the needles and blood bags away. We're going to assess how well they're performing by checking in with Cindy, the on-site medical technologist, every month, and just seeing, are the employees doing what they're supposed to be doing? Are they putting away the blood bags and the safety and the needles in the right spaces, and are the boxes not blocking the entry and exit doorway? So for this situation, the training has worked. And so that means that it'll be implemented long-term. And so every new hire that comes onto the clinic staff will receive this training, and there won't be that specific patient safety issue anymore.
We wanted to leave you with some contact information for both Lauren and myself. I am Dr. Gwendolyn Abington of Claytac Consulting, your team building and conflict resolution resource. I have my contact information here. I just want to reiterate the 6 by 10 point method and plan. The method is with your organization, we will analyze, identify, advise, and execute the plan that has been agreed upon. The plan is the object of the plan is for teamwork, to build resilience in teams, having fun all along the way through the 3 C's, which is the foundation: connection, collaboration, and communication. Claytac Consulting 6 by 4 point plan and method. You guys give us a call, an email. You can go to the website, and there's a place to book an appointment. I would love to speak with you about all your team building, conflict resolution, and diversity, equity, and inclusion needs. Give it to you, Lauren.
Thank you. I'm Lauren Christensen, the owner and principal instructional designer of Christensen Designs. Feel free to schedule a free consultation at my website that's displayed on the screen, christensendesigns.com, or you can email me at the email on the screen. We're your partner in improving performance. I work on online learning, instructor-led training, and virtual instructor-led training so that we can help your business build resilience by building a knowledgeable and skilled workforce. Thank you for listening.
Wow, session 1 went by so fast. We do appreciate you guys attending this portion of the workshop. But stay tuned now. We have 2 brilliant presenters coming up to talk about building resilience in individuals. Presenters Dr. Kirsten Wilson of Tree Root Wellness and Debbie Moss, the functional health coach.
Also, a reminder that after their session, there will be a raffle drawing with 4 winners and a Q&A with all presenters available to answer any questions. The raffle drawings include a 30-minute consultation with Dr. Wilson, Debbie Moss's stress-relieving essential oil kit, a 30-minute team building conflict resolution consultation with Dr. Abington, and Lauren Christensen's scenario training template. We'll now have a brief stretch break with Linda Smith from Notes of Celebration playing Hallelujah.
Well, that was great from Dr. Abington and Lauren. And my name is Debbie, and me and Dr. Kirsten are going to talk about resilience in individuals. So we believe that we can withstand stress so long as we have coping skills and strategies in place. This is what we're hoping to give you today, are some tips and some strategies to help you with your resilience. What you need is to know how to recover and to recharge so that you have what it takes to get through the challenges that life has to offer. It's really called self-care. And anybody who knows me, I harp on self-care all the time. So we're going to be giving you some ways, some tips, some ways to promote recovery time and to how to recharge it. We can't cover everything today, but we will be going over at least 5 major things. Go ahead and flip that slide. So a formal introduction. So my name is Debbie Moss. I'm a functional medicine health coach. I'm a national board certified health and wellness coach, which, by the way, is a big test that I had to take to get that certification. It's a test that's put together by the board that tests doctors and health coaches, and they combine together to nationally certified health coaches. And in that learning and test, we had to learn about self-care in this test. So it was required for us as a health coach to know how to do self-care on ourselves, as well as show other people. So just a tidbit on that certification. I have a 200-hour yoga certification. I am a heart math practitioner, and I'm a wellness advocate for doTERRA essential oils. After graduating from Portland State with a biochemistry degree, I started working at an internal medicine doctor's office that had 5 internal medicine doctors. I worked there for 17 years, and it was during my work in that field that, because I originally thought I wanted to be an RN, that I realized I didn't want to be an RN. I just didn't feel like I was really helping people the way that they needed helping. The doctor would give them a sheet of paper to change up their lifestyle, and then inevitably the patients would come back needing to go on the medication because they didn't know how to make the changes. So it was during that time that I realized I wanted to help people in a different manner to help them make those lifestyle changes. And so my business has kind of morphed into, I was at first focusing on eating, but then it has totally expanded into self-care. That includes eating and sleeping and exercise and all of that, but to help, to give people tools to make the changes that they need in their life.
So I'm Dr. Kirsten Wilson. I'm a naturopathic physician. I'm also a certified athletic trainer. So that's kind of where my passion for brain health, and specifically I work a lot with people who have had concussions and have long-lasting symptoms, also known as post-concussive syndrome, as well as a number of other neurological symptoms. This includes mental health, environmental illness, anything that can cause inflammation in the brain is kind of what I focus on. And when I was an athletic trainer, I saw a lot of youth get concussions. And there was this one particular kid who had had a concussion the first year I was there, and the second year I was there, I ran onto the field because he was a football player. So he got hit and was face down. He had pain on his spine. And so we sent him off via ambulance to make sure his neck was okay. His neck was fine, but his brain wasn't. And I remember him telling me that he couldn't, so it was an all boys boarding school. So he'd been there going to school for years, and he got lost on campus. He didn't know where he was. So he basically had Alzheimer's-like symptoms at the age of 17. And that broke my heart. I really am committed to helping people recover from any type of neuroinflammation, including sports injuries, especially with our youth, to help them get their life back on track, because it can really derail their entire life from one hit or multiple hits. And so I, work as a naturopathic physician. So I use a variety of tools, from pharmaceuticals to botanicals, and do quite a bit of body work. I work over at MediPro Holistic Health with a collaborative team of providers in the Tanasbourne area. We really work as a team. We meet monthly to go over cases and really try to give quality care to our patients. So I'm going to start us off with a little bit of science. I'm going to try and dumb it down here. So we're going to talk about a phone tree. This is how I'm going to explain the endocrine system to you today. The endocrine system is very much like a phone tree. The only difference is, it stays the same and doesn't, do weird things when you're doing the phone tree as a kid. So in times of stress, you're going to get what's called a fight or flight response. And when this gets activated, a part of our brain called the amygdala, also known as where all the memories of all the bad things that have ever happened to you, that's the part of the brain that keeps track of that. So it signals and calls the hypothalamus, which is a gland inside the brain. It says, hey, we're really stressed out. This doesn't feel good. This feels like something bad's happening. So then the hypothalamus calls the pituitary. The pituitary says, okay, well, I'll release cortical releasing factor, or CRF, which then goes and talks to the adrenal gland. It says, hey, adrenals, can you release a whole bunch of cortisol so that we can run from this supposed tiger we're experiencing, even if we're not actually running from a tiger, because we live in modern days. There's usually not a tiger chasing us, even though it feels that way. So it's super helpful to have your heart rate go up, your respiratory rate go up, have your lungs expand to be able to run. But most of the time we are sitting, taking a phone call if we're working a job, or we're taking a family call, and we get really activated inside of it. And this can have large implications over time to multiple systems in the body. So here's a really fun cartoon that kind of describes like all the organs that are affected during a stress response. So it's almost every organ in the body. And so we talked about the nervous system. So the nervous system and the endocrine system go hand in hand. When you have chronic cortisol release, our immune system gets suppressed. So you get colds more easily. You might not recover from illness all that easily. We talked about the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system. And then because you're running from the tiger, that's what the system was built for. The blood flow goes to your joints and muscles and your skin and goes away from your reproductive tract and your digestive tract. And so those no longer function as well. So that's a lot of different systems. So here's kind of an overview of those systems and what you might, depending on where you are inside the phases of stress, you could experience a variety of symptoms. So we talked about you might not recover from illness or trauma as easily as you did before. You might experience just feeling tired or achy all the time. You might experience a lack of motivation, but aren't actually experiencing depression, that it's actually related to the stress response. Your concentration and focus is down-regulated. You feel a little more anxious. And then often, and this is where lab work can be helpful, we usually run what's called a saliva test to look at the curve of the cortisol, because cortisol is your kick you out of bed in the morning hormone. The one that gets you up in the morning is the one that wakes you to get you out of bed. And so often, when it gets dysregulated, you'll actually feel better at 6 p.m. instead of 6 or 8 a.m. And so you're exhausted in the morning because your cortisol has dropped out. And that curve is dysregulated. So we can get frequent colds. You might be more hypersensitive to foods and chemicals. You may notice you have menstrual irregularities, or your sex drive goes down. You might notice that you feel really lightheaded when you haven't eaten. You got to eat like every 2 hours. If you don't have anything else happening inside this, usually people are more predominant to have constipation over diarrhea. You might get generalized abdominal discomfort, because a lot of times when we're in this state, we're not taking time, we're going to talk about this, not taking time to actually chew our food and digest it and be in a restful state as we eat. We're usually working and eating at the same time, or we're eating in the car as we're going. And this has a profound effect on our ability to actually digest that food. And you might notice that you crave really foods high in fat, or like salty food, like popcorn or pretzels. That's super common because of dysregulation in that endocrine system. So there are 3 phases generally when you look at the stress response. So the first phase, the body's like, hey, we've got a little alarm going and you got a little too much neurotransmitters running around and cortisol. Like, it's just a little too much, but I'm okay with it for now. And then as it keeps going, and you get chronic release of that cortisol, it leads to suppressing the adrenal. So that phone tree, the bottom of the phone tree stops working. It goes offline and disrupts that whole axis. So that phone tree is kind of called the HPA axis. So it disrupts that, and now you have high amounts of cortisol. That's not helpful in the long term, it's only helpful in the short term. And so then if that keeps going, you end up in what's called the exhaustion phase. So some people refer to this as adrenal fatigue or adrenal insufficiency, but it's that long-term stress response. It can happen in chronic illness a lot. People that experience different struggles with their mental health, or are working a really difficult job, or a single mom. Like, all of those are examples of people that may end up in this state where their cortisol levels drop off, they are exhausted, and they have no energy in the morning, and they have maybe some GI symptoms and possibly some anxiety, or just have to keep going all the time. They're just running and they never slow down. So take a minute and think about, do you fit in any of these 3 phases? Is there a phase that you relate to? Did you notice that you had some of these symptoms? And kind of just keep this in mind as we go through. We're going to give you 2 different scenarios to kind of have some framework as we talk about tools to actually address having resilience and being able to adapt to stress, because life is full of stress, both positive and negative, and everything in between.
So we're kind of going to give you a little story of 2 scenarios, just to kind of give you a real life example of what we're talking about. So scenario 1, this woman worked way late the night before. So as her alarm went off, she hit the snooze button too many times. I know a few people that this happens too frequently, my daughter being one of them. So she gets up late for work. There's no time for breakfast, so she grabs coffee and just jets on out to work. When she gets to work, she's still drinking her coffee, but someone brought donuts there in the break room. Of course, she's going to have some because she's kind of tired. So she eats her donuts, and once that sugar crashes from the donuts, she needs more coffee. Lunchtime comes, she gets some fast food because she's going to work at her desk. She's behind in her work, and so she doesn't leave her desk. And then she gets a phone call. And this is a phone call from a very difficult client. So how does she react? Does she get frustrated with the client? Or perhaps she keeps her cool with the client, but then takes out her frustration on her coworkers and or her family when she gets home. This is a real life situation. This really does happen to people.
So scenario 2. This lovely lady goes to bed by 10 p.m. every night. She gets up at the same time every morning, regardless of whether she's working or not. Has a great morning routine filled with exercise, stretching, yoga. She has a routine that she really enjoys. And she does some breath work and journaling to really bring herself into center and awareness of what's happening in her world. She takes a shower and gets ready for work, has a really healthy breakfast. She makes her own healthy snacks and lunch and brings it to work. And when lunch comes around, she actually goes outside. Maybe there's a picnic table or a grassy area, and she eats away from her desk. And then she gets the same difficult call from the client. But this time she feels really grounded during the call because she had this great routine that she started the day off with. And then she's able to let go of the challenging conversation and talks it out with her coworkers, her family, and uses her tools to let go of the conversation.
So how can we support being more like Fable 2? You know, when she just reminded me something Dr. Kirsten said, my husband would always say, just let it roll off your back. And I'm like, I can't do that. I didn't have tools though. So we want to teach you some tools to have and practice. These aren't tools that you just practice when you're stressed. These are tools that you do throughout life to create a routine. So we're going to help you to learn how to shift into resilience when it's happening, because you can physically do that. Helpful routines. Your brain loves routines. I repeat that. Your brain loves routines. We're going to talk a little bit about nutrition, a little bit about exercise, and then Dr. Kirsten's going to talk to us about supplements that can help give your body what it needs to push through some stress. So a little bit about our nervous system. We have a sympathetic portion of our nervous system, and that is, we're being chased by a tiger, is kind of what Dr. Kirsten kind of paraphrased with the phone tree. Your body's going. It shuts down your digestion. It shuts down things like reproduction, but it shunts all of the blood to your muscles, and you are ready to fight or run. And then we have the parasympathetic state, which is called the rest and digest state, where you are in a relaxed state. You're not stressed. Your body is functioning normal. You're digesting your food good. You really want to be in that parasympathetic state when you do sit down to eat. So there's the two ways, and you can physically shift your body into the parasympathetic state when you are in the sympathetic state. So many of us are running around in our sympathetic state and we don't even realize it because we've been there for so long.
Yeah, so some additional things is it's often called the fight or flight, but there's two other attributes that people are starting to use. So freeze is one where you just get paralyzed and you stop moving. And fawn is the other one where you just, like, you people please. So you're like, okay, yeah, sure, yes. And you say yes to everything because you don't know how to negotiate your own stress response that's occurring. And a lot of this is connected to childhood trauma, and depending on how we were raised in those aspects, depends on how you decide to fight, flight, freeze, or fawn inside this response. So we talked pretty in detail. This is just a bigger picture of a cartoon, remembering that like your skin's going to start to sweat. This is why people with anxiety about public speaking will vomit, start sweating, feel really cold, and all of that happening. And the heart rate gets really high. So your lungs are going to expand, which allows your heart rate to go up. Sometimes you get really shallow breathing. So if you're not breathing through your belly, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, that can create a worsening of this response because you're not getting enough oxygen to the rest of your body, including the brain. And then part of the reason that we get these food cravings is that the liver converts glycogen, which is the stored version of glucose or sugar, and it starts rapidly converting it to glucose so you have enough energy to run from the tiger. But it's also the reason if you're stressed out at your desk before. I found this to be really true during medical school when we were doing long periods of studying. My friend and I would, we did well studying together. So we'd do whiteboard, marathon studying for 4 or 5 hours. And we'd hit a threshold where we're like, he needed cookies and I needed Justin's peanut butter cups because I needed sugar because I was breaking it down, stressing about the next test. And so that's super common. And then it's also common for your digestion tract not to have enough blood flow to it, so you don't digest well. So you get heartburn and gas and bloating.
And I have to say that the same thing, Dr. Wilson, if you go back to that last slide. So, yeah, I've not been a health coach all my life. So when I was in my biochemistry class, actually taking biochemistry at Portland State, I would, I almost don't even want to say it, I would line up an A&W root beer with York peppermint patties. And my instructor would look at me because his midterms were 2 hours long. His final was 4 hours long. And I just could not even fathom sitting there without getting some energy somewhere. And that's where I would be getting my energy, which is bad. I do not recommend for anybody. And another note on that is that liver converting glycogen to glucose. As a health coach, people come up and talk to me all the time just to tell me what's going on. And I had this diabetic. I was not working with this person. And he says, I don't know what's going on. My blood sugar is pretty consistent. And this weekend, it was all over the place. And I'm eating the same things. And I said, well, tell me about your weekend. What did you do this weekend? And he says, oh, it was really stressful. And he was telling me about his weekend. And I said, well, that's why your sugar was all over the place. Because literally your liver pushes sugar into your bloodstream when you're stressed and you need energy, because it's getting ready to run from that tiger. And it's as if you've eaten half of a chocolate cake, consuming it, right? You're consuming a chocolate cake, but you didn't really get to eat it. Your liver's just going to throw the sugar into your system as if you did eat that chocolate cake, which is no fun. So you can be a super skinny person and have diabetes, because if you're constantly stressed, you can kick yourself into this state where your liver is constantly pumping sugar into your system, which you don't want.
Yeah, and I would rephrase it slightly. So often your lab work won't show diabetes, but you will have dysregulated sugar.
Absolutely.
And so that's super common. In one of my learnings in school, so my board exams were 3 days long, about 3.5 hours. There were 2 3.5 hour blocks in those 3 days. And you couldn't go home between, right? So I brought chicken and had legit, and I would, because you could go out and snack in between, during the exam, you hand in your stand and things. And it was super helpful. So I didn't have sugar on board. And I was like, okay, we're going to legit eat protein to get my brain to function enough to finish this ridiculous test. And it totally works. It helps balance that blood sugar dysregulation out.
Yeah. Okay, so our first tip, when we talk about parasympathetic state, which is our nervous system in a stress state, the sympathetic state is our nervous system in a stress state, and the parasympathetic state is our nervous system in a non-stress state. When you're in the sympathetic state, you are in a more shallow, rapid breathing. And if you get stressed or a phone call or whatever, you notice your breathing starts to increase. That puts you even farther into a sympathetic state. When you're in a parasympathetic state, you're in a more deeper, more in a deep breathing. You're really inhaling, filling your lungs. So if you're in a stress state, you can use deep breathing to shift you into that parasympathetic state. So this is something you can physically do to shift you over into a state where you can think better, right? You can think through whatever's coming at you. So our breath is completely connected to our nervous system and how we respond. So there is one breath work. It's called 4x4, and you inhale for a count of 4, you hold for a count of 4, you exhale for a count of 4, and then you hold that for a count of 4, and then you just keep repeating that. This breath work is used. I know some people who work in a field that can be quite stressful, and they use this breath work to, if something really stressful happens, breathe, and they practice this breath work so that then they can come out of it and think better, make better decisions. So you can do this in the car. You can do this before that phone call. If you know that phone call's coming, you can do this during a phone call or during a conversation, and nobody really has to even know that you're doing that. And when you want to do that, you kind of want to place your both feet on the ground. You want to ground yourself as you're practicing breathing. There's a lot of, you can just breathe in deeply, exhale deeply, however you want to do it. But there is 2 other breath works that I want to mention. And one of them is alternate nostril breathing, and the other is humming or singing. So both the humming and the alternate nostril breathing can be part of an Ayurvedic practice, or in yoga. They do this breath work. In Ayurveda medicine, these breath techniques have been around for 5,000 years. So constantly trying to shift yourself into a less stressed state. So I just wanted to show you the alternate nostril breathing, because you really probably don't have an idea in your head what that looks like. So you're going to use your 2 fingers. In yoga, you use your thumb and your ring finger, but you can use your just your finger and your thumb. And what you're going to do is you're going to put your thumb on the right side of your nose and plug that right side and inhale through the left nostril. Then you're going to plug with that other finger and release the right side and exhale out of the right side. Then you're going to inhale on the right side, same side, plug your nose, release the left side, exhale the left side. And then you're going to inhale, and you're going to repeat that over and over. So you're exhaling and inhaling on one side, exhaling on the other side. And you're going to go back and forth and do that for a couple minutes. That kind of breathing balances the brain, because you have 2 hemispheres of your brain, and you are actually balancing out and grounding the brain. Humming is another great way, and I have to back up for a minute. We have a nerve called our vagus nerve that goes from our brain to our gut. And that vagus nerve, when stimulated, can pull you into the parasympathetic state, which is a less stressed state. Humming and or singing are 2 physical ways to manifest that, because this nerve goes down the brain into the gut, and by humming, that vibration massages that. But also the deep breathing that we just talked about massages that. Your diaphragm, when you're taking deep breaths, massages that vagal nerve as the diaphragm expands and contracts. So for the humming, you would just literally just hum. You can hum your favorite song. In breathing, in yoga breathing, you would just inhale and then exhale a hum, and then inhale and then exhale a hum. Again, you can do this before a phone call. You can do this during a stressful time. You can do this during driving. So breathwork is probably one of the biggest things that you have control of to shift your body into a less stressed state. Anything you want to add, Dr. Kirsten?
No, it's just crucial. We forget to breathe.
We forget to breathe.
We forget to breathe, and we breathe really shallow. So doing this when you're not stressed is really important, so you can teach your body and repattern your body to do this when you're stressed, because otherwise, if you're in a hyperventilation state, you're going to have a hard time doing this if you don't have the muscle memory of what it feels like.
Yep. Yeah. I know when I get stressed, I'll take a big inhale and I breathe out. And my husband goes, "Are you stressed?" Yes, I am. So that is the first thing I do now is I inhale really deeply and then just breathe it out. And I'll do that a couple times. He's all right, what do we need to do? So breathing is critical.
Yeah, and saying, actually, like using sound to, obviously not while you can do this while you're driving, or not great like during a phone call with, someone, but it's really helpful to actually use sound to move energy out and shift it.
Yep. Brian says he finds himself holding his breath when he's aware of something. Yes, and we do. And by practicing breath work, you literally, it's like patterning, like Dr. Kirsten said, you're teaching your body to breathe. And I do breath work every day. Okay, so the second thing to physically shift yourself into a less stress state is using a tool called essential oils. So essential oils are a very effective way of shifting your nervous system into that parasympathetic state. And you remember Dr. Wilson talking about that phone tree where it starts in the brain and that signal then goes down all the way down to your adrenal glands. When you're inhaling an essential oil, it gives autonomic support, which means it is talking directly to the brain to interrupt whatever you're thinking of. So if you're thinking of something very stressful, very negative, or fearful, whatever, by inhaling, one, you're breathing deep, right? You have to inhale. So that's one thing, but that scent, that olfactory system goes right into the brain and it will interrupt or change the way you're thinking. So think of a time that you walked into grandma's house and she was baking chocolate chip cookies or homemade bread. What is that feeling that comes over with you when you smell that, when you're not even at grandma's house? It just brings a warm feeling. And so scent is very strongly related to how we feel. And if you're inhaling essential oils that are known to effectively shift you into a parasympathetic state, this is a tool that you can carry around in your purse. You can use oils topically as well to stimulate that parasympathetic nervous system. So remember when I talked about the vagus nerve starting from the brain and going down into the gut? Two oils in particular, lime and clove, they're just known to trigger that vagal nerve, and by triggering that again can shift you over into a less stressed state. So if you mix lime and clove with a little olive oil or coconut oil and put it on your fingers and then rub that bone, that mastoid bone right behind your ears, you can feel that bone, and you just rub those oils into that area. You are stimulating, because what you put on your skin does get absorbed into your body. You're stimulating that vagal nerve. And that these are just two ways that you can use aromatically essential oils or topically. And there's a lot of different oils that do very similar things. I'm just bringing up two examples. Helpful routines. As I had mentioned earlier, your brain loves routines. And if you take away anything from this, write this down. Your brain loves routine. When you have a routine, even if you're in a stress state or something comes up that you find yourself more stressed out, you're grounding yourself by doing the routine you always do every day anyway, because your brain is going into it's like you're not having to think about doing this routine that you do every day. And that is very grounding to your brain. So morning routine, an example would be getting up at the same time every morning. And yes, that does mean the weekends. And I know that just sounds terrible. I know I have a hard time getting up at the same time every day, and I'll be within 30 minutes. But getting up at the same time every day, your body likes to know what's coming. It expects things. Exercise, stretching, walking, meditating, journaling. What is it that you want to do in the morning? This morning, I exercised. I did my 15-minute weights and cardio. Everybody has their shower, they get dressed, they get ready for the day. Having a good breakfast is really a good way of starting the day. Your body does need and require energy to go through stress. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So just start with something easy and doable, even if it's just one thing that you think you could do in the morning. And I think to start, write down, what would your perfect morning look like? What if you imagine, oh yeah, sitting on the deck in the sun, drinking coffee, staring at whatever, I don't know, your garden. What steps do you have to take to even start doing that. So write down what your perfect morning would look like, and then what are the steps to do to get to that point, and just start incorporating one thing at a time until that becomes more easily doable so that you are in some sort of routine. And then we have the nighttime. Your morning actually starts the night before. Slow down is the big one. So having a healthy dinner or a good dinner at least by 7 o'clock, you really don't want to be eating 3 hours prior to bedtime. You want to give yourself at least 3 hours. And the reason for that is your brain and your body detox during the deep sleep of the night, which usually happens between 10 and 2 o'clock, 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. When you're in that deep sleep, your brain gets rid of the toxins in it, which can cause stress. Your body gets rid of the toxins in it, which also causes stress. If you've eaten right before you go to bed, like you eat, you snack, and then you go to bed, your body's not going to be doing the detoxing that it needs to do. It's going to be digesting your food. So really important to give some time between last meal and go to bed. And you need to wind down with whatever is soothing your mind. Some people it's yoga, some people it's a hot, Epsom salt bath. Turning off electronics is super important. This little device here keeps us up. And I know some of my family likes to, it's how they calm down. They're watching Netflix on their phone or they're scrolling through Instagram. That light is actually depleting your melatonin. I just need to tell you this, that the blue light coming from either your computer or your phone screen diminishes the melatonin. And there is an intricate weave between cortisol and melatonin. Your cortisol goes up during the morning to wake you up as your melatonin goes down. At night, your melatonin goes up as your cortisol goes down to put you to sleep. If you're sitting in front of a screen, depleting your melatonin, well, that cortisol is just going to go up. So you're really not going to sleep as well. Really important. Calm your mind, shut your electronics off, wash your face, brush your teeth, whatever it is that you get ready for bed. And not everybody's going to be a 10 p.m. person. I try my hardest to get to bed by 10, earlier if I can. But just start with something easy again and work your way into a routine. And sometimes it doesn't even, it's like, yeah, I'm making myself do this. But the more you blaze that trail by doing the same thing over and over, it just becomes so much easier to have a routine that your body and your brain expect, oh, we're calming down. Now I'm going to be going to sleep. Routine, routine, routine.
Yeah, and with the blue light blocking, there's actually apps you can download onto both your computer and phone to at least reduce. So if you're the type of person that just like I can't, like I have to use the phone, like there's middle grounds. Like this is how I work with my patients all the time. Like it's not about pushing yourself around to do this really specific thing. If you're a night owl, you don't go to bed till 2 a.m. Like it's not going to work for you to go to bed 4 hours earlier. You're never going to achieve that goal. But you could try to go 15 minutes earlier. And then if you're a person that really copes by looking at your phone, not ideal, but at least download a blue blocking so you're not interrupting the melatonin production as much.
And you can buy the glasses that you literally put on at like 6 or 7 at night, and they do look funny. They're an orange type of glass to block out all the blue light, but it really works well with cutting out all the blue light coming from not only your lights above you, but your electronics, so that you do get that good sleep. So supportive nutrition. Everybody has heard, eat your vegetables, eat healthy, and everybody knows that. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. What I do want to say though, is, we need to recharge our body. We need to make sure that our body can withstand stress if it hits us. And one way to do that is to eat healthy, because our body burns through vitamins and minerals when we stress out. It will burn right through them. And so it's really critical to eat leafy greens, which provide so many vitamins and minerals. Nuts and seeds, not only vitamins and minerals, but a healthy fat. Cruciferous vegetables, that includes broccoli, kale, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. Fatty fish like salmon, and just healthy fats in general, that which could be like avocados or olive oil, olives, all of those really good healthy fats. Though for those people who drink coffee all the time, you know, coffee's not this enemy or bad for you. But if you know your day is stressful, drinking a pot of coffee before work or this stressful event is not going to help you at all. You can drink your cup of coffee, 1 or 2 cups, but then switch over to tea, especially on a stressful day, because tea does contain different phytochemicals that help your body through stress. Green tea would help carry the most of these chemicals that help your body, but if you don't like green tea, black tea is okay as well. Any of the teas actually can provide some of the compounds that help your body through stress. Berries and colorful vegetables, we're talking antioxidants that our body also will burn through when you're in a really stressful situation. So really eating to support your body and recharging your body, especially between stressful times. You know, life is always going to happen. So continually to eat, you know, make good choices, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or healthy snacks or something to put those vitamins in you, because then your body's prepared for that next whatever comes your way.
It's about providing it the right fuel. It's like the story I shared about my board exams earlier, like bringing extra chicken to eat halfway through the test, and having a lot of it's about preparation, and that's part of the routine, but it's fuel. And so blueberries are wonderful, green tea is wonderful. We're going to talk about fish in a minute, because I'm going to talk about fish oil today. And the most important thing with the fish is not increasing the stress on your body by getting a fish that has high levels of mercury or other heavy metals. So making sure you're getting it from a really good source, so that you're not adding to the burden that the body's already feeling.
Well, and that kind of plays into eating organic as much as you can, because all those pesticides also put a stress on the body. So eating as clean as you possibly can. It's not going to be perfect. I'm not perfect, but I do the best that I can, knowing that I am making good and healthy choices throughout the day.
Yeah, and you listening to what your gut tells you about that, because if you're in a tight financial situation, organic's not always possible. So then using, my brain's gonna blank. There is a list. Debbie, help me out. There's the Dirty 30?
The Dirty Dozen.
Dirty Dozen, there we go. So
yes.
when you're in a
EWG.org, yeah.
Yeah, so you can use that as a guideline. Usually fruits are really important to get organic. So you can use that as your guideline, and the things that aren't listed on that, you can get away with non-organic foods a little bit more easily. And I think Debbie's sharing the link with you.
Yeah.
So any other pieces about nutrition?
Eat your veggies, guys.
Okay, let's talk about exercise. Talk about nutrition. Nutrition and exercise tend to go hand in hand. So I'm a big proponent of reframing the word exercise. For some people, the word exercise is correlated with the buff dude in the gym that's like lifting a shit ton of weights and working out 6 to 7 days a week. That is not what we need to be doing. So I have a patient who's got type 2 diabetes, pretty significant PTSD with high blood pressure, and it's just not doable. And so she told me that she'd been dancing in her house like 5 minutes a day. I'm like, that's awesome. Because the key is that we change the wording to movement. Like, what's a movement that you enjoy? Do you enjoy dancing? Do you want to go hiking? Do you like to run? May you like to swim? And so really meeting yourself wherever that joy exists, because the more joy you have on board, the easier this is. It becomes a chore when we push ourselves around and try to put ourselves in a box of what everyone else is doing, especially as we approach the new year. You get to make your own goals, and they don't need to involve a gym membership. There are other ways to get exercise, but they can. For certain people, that's actually joyful. It's just not joyful for everyone. And sports are a great way that people like doing things in community could be really helpful. So the goal usually is to try to get about 30 minutes of movement per day. So that could be a walk. It is helpful to do things that are moderate intensity. So getting your heart rate up. There are different ways to do this that don't, involve running, but it's really meeting yourself where you're at. You may not be in a place where it's really safe for your body to be going for a run, like you're likely to hurt yourself. And so walking is wonderful. So again, meeting yourself where you're at and what is doable. Start with 5 minutes if you need to. And if 30 minutes is doable, you can do 30 minutes and see how many times a week you get that done. Is it daily or is it just twice a week? And then you increase by a little bit. So everything we're talking about today is about making small changes, not big changes. And small changes are doable. Big changes need small changes inside the big change. So a reminder, a little science brain over here. Movement helps release our natural painkillers called endorphins. So they help improve mood as well as energy. So then they combat that stress response. And so it's always a key component to addressing underlying stress is if you're not moving at all. And a lot of people in that exhaustion phase are not able to. And so again, it's like, what could you do for this 5 minutes? And sometimes it's just sitting outside. It's not even moving, but it's connecting with something outside of ourselves. Anything to add on, Debbie?
No, just, find somebody that wants to do it with you. And you can challenge each other. Hey, I'm moving. You can text them, I'm moving 5 minutes. I just danced for 5 minutes. I just ran up the stairs, whatever it is. And make it fun. Just make it fun.
Beautiful.
Play, go play. Go to Topgolf. That's moving. People start, they go, oh my gosh, I can't exercise. Well, do something you like, go do putt-putt golf. It doesn't matter as long as you're moving your body.
Yeah.
Just not sitting on the couch.
About movement.
About movement.
That's where you start, and then you can increase it from there. So I'm going to go through 3 supplements today. There are a million supplements you could choose from to address resilience and adapting to stress. So know that the pot is deep in supporting the body. So I'm going to do a little bit of a soapbox here about quality assurance. So supplements are not regulated by the FDA. And so often people will come into my office and say, I bought it from Amazon or Costco. And there's just not guarantee of quality assurance. Usually it's bought third party. And so often people will open the bottle and there's different colored pills and they're like, it's not working well. It's because often it's run through a third party and it's not tested for how much quality is actually in the product. And is the product actually the product you're taking? We don't actually know. And so usually recommend either going through, both Debbie and I have access to online dispensaries. And so you can order through us and you do get a discount. It also helps support our business. And then the other option, and any kind of health coach or naturopath, acupuncturist have access to these accounts. And then the other option is places like Market of Choice, Whole Foods, natural grocers often carry good quality supplements. And those are better places to buy than from Costco. And you get higher quality brands as well. So that's my little soapbox.
Which is different than essential. I just need to bring up essential oils because you just reminded me.
Yeah.
You really shouldn't buy essential oils from any of the stores because they have added fragrance in them and that is going to be stressful on your body. So with supplements and essential oils, make sure it's quality stuff. Yeah.
Yep. And there's several different brands of essential oils that are higher quality. And Debbie runs one called doTERRA if you need to purchase those. She's a good resource for that. So let's talk about, speaking of resources, so one of the companies, we're going to talk about an herb. So if you like to make teas and want to get actual like powdered or loose leaf tea or herb, Mountain Rose Herbs in Eugene is a really great company that has organic herbs as well as tinctures. And so they're a really great resource that's very high quality. And they have a couple of essential oils, I believe. So we're going to start with ashwagandha, which is an Ayurvedic herb that's also used in Chinese medicine. It's considered an adaptogenic herb. So that means it helps you adapt to stress. That's all an adaptogenic herb is. Sometimes they're a little more stimulating, sometimes they're more sedative, depending on their qualities. Ashwagandha is used for a lot of different things. So I'm going to talk about some of the more specific things to the nervous system and stress response, because that's what we're concentrating on today, but it does more than what I've listed. So it augments serotonin, meaning it helps that happy hormone and helps that balance it. It suppresses oxidative stress, which can cause cell damage over time. So often you'll read about oxidative stress worsening cancer growth, or it occurs in brain injuries and can really harm the neurons. And so getting that under control is really helpful. And that's where green tea is also helpful, as it's a heavy antioxidant, as well as blueberries. It protects our mitochondria. Our mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell, if you remember from cell biology, which all that means is it produces our energy, our ATP molecule. So it produces energy, and so we protect our energy producers. So if those get damaged, then we feel fatigued and run down. It increases a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, which is responsible for making any type of nerve impulse, whether it's a muscle contraction or a message between neurons, like a message about pain or happy thoughts or memory. So that's really helpful in, this is often used in neurodegenerative conditions, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, because of its relationship to affecting the neurotransmitters. It increases expression of dopamine, which is both a neurotransmitter that affects our motor system. That's why it's low in Parkinson's disease, and so that's why they get tremors. But it's also part of our mood stabilization. So increasing that could be really helpful for that low motivation, trouble focusing that we talked about earlier. It helps inhibit cortisol overproduction. We talked all about the phone tree causing that. So that's super helpful. And it increases the production of something called GABA. So GABA is our inhibitory. So it brings everything down and calms the system down. So GABA helps reduce anxiety because it calms the number of neurons firing, versus in the next slide, we're going to talk about glutamate, which is really excitatory. So it's really high in autism, seizures, after brain injuries, and can actually be neurotoxic. So having more GABA on board and less glutamate is helpful for anyone, no matter what health state you are in.
And ashwagandha is one of my favorite. I use the powder. I put it in a smoothie every day. I have supplements with ashwagandha. It's awesome. And I do notice a difference.
Yeah, it's a wonderful herb. I really like to take it in the powdered form. I've certainly used it in capsule form, but I like to take it in powdered with turmeric milk or golden milk. And we're going to provide you a recipe for that. It's super yummy and tasty. If you put too much ashwagandha powder, it will change the taste. It doesn't taste as good.
It's really earthy.
Very earthy. So we're going to provide that recipe. And on why I'm thinking about this, on the last slide, Debbie talked about having a diversity of color, and she has this really great handout that we're going to share with you over email so you can track what different colored vegetables are actually in your diet to see how much diversity you're getting. The more plant diversity you have, the greater biodiversity your gut has, and the greater chance that it is going to help improve your mood and your brain and your resilience.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Okay. So we got 2 more items. We're going to talk about magnesium. So I love magnesium because it's simple, it's powerful, and it can be used for a wide variety of things. It plays a vital role in our nerve function. So it's part of getting that nerve impulse to go, to send messages throughout our body. Because that's what the nerves do. They tell us that we have pain, they help us create thoughts and memories and have feelings. And so I talked about glutamate. So what magnesium does is actually blocks glutamate's receptors. So it can't produce and bind. And so we get more GABA to come on board and less excitement. So it calms anxiety. If you have any type of like sensory overload, so you get really sensitive to noise or light, it can calm that down. It's super helpful if you have chronic migraines. It's actually been shown to abort migraines, just like medication, especially when used in IV form. So through an IV into a vein. So it's just this really wonderful element that can be used in a variety of ways. So I'm going to talk about the different forms, because the number one thing people get confused around with magnesium is like they walk into the store and there's like 5 different forms, like which one am I supposed to take? So it depends what you're taking it for. So usually if your doctor is recommending to get an IV with magnesium in it, they'll use magnesium sulfate and usually put some other nutrients in the IV bag so that you get a couple different things. And they'll monitor you. So one of the cautions with magnesium is if you have low blood pressure, magnesium causes the vessels to dilate or open up. And so they will drop your blood pressure potentially. So if you have low blood pressure, you want to be careful with it. So then if you're looking to increase and address some brain fog or cognition challenges, L-theanine is the form you want to use because it's brain specific. If you've got really tight muscles and your neck goes out and you're just like tight everywhere or achy everywhere, glycinate is the form you want to look at. If you are constipated, citrate is the form that you want to use over the other forms. Malate can also be used for constipation, and often malate, citrate, and glycinate in the powdered forms like Calm. That's over the counter, that's powdered, and it's got a bit of sugar in it. I use it all the time because I put it in hot water, and the hot water with the magnesium calms my system. I also take something called triple magnesium that I believe has malate, citrate, and glycinate in it. And I use that for menstrual cramps. So I take it as soon as I know I start bleeding, and then I take several doses over the couple days I bleed to calm the uterine contractions that occur with a menstrual cycle. So those are the forms of magnesium. I know Debbie takes it. What's your experience with magnesium?
I do. I take it every night. I take triple mag like you do. And then I take a magnesium citrate as well for like relaxation and helping sleep and stuff.
Yeah, it can be really helpful for sleep as well. So yeah, questions further in the chat. We're going to do one more supplement. Fish oil. So I love fish oil. I use it all the time with my patients. I take it myself. It's one of the most powerful anti-inflammatories, natural anti-inflammatories, and you can get it through nutrition. So if you eat fish, you can get omegas through there. Otherwise, it's challenging. You can get it through flax seeds. It's a much lower dose. And usually when I work with brain injury patients, it's really high dose of fish oil. And so it's very difficult to get it through nutrition. So often I'll use a supplement at high doses for a short period of time, depending on the case. So when we get stressed out, we become inflamed. That's why maybe your knee starts to hurt, your back goes out, your neck goes out. There is inflammation occurring, or you get really bad brain fog, likely some neuroinflammation starting to happen. So a lot of people don't realize our brain is made up of 70% fats. So we need to feed it with fats, but they need to be good quality fats, not, corn oil. Good quality fats, avoiding the saturated fats and using good quality oils, avocado oil, sunflower oil, and using them at the right temperatures when you're cooking, which is all nutrition, right, that we're bringing in. And so fish oil can be a really great addition. If you are on any type of blood thinners, you do want to check with your physician before starting it because they thin your blood. And so if you're already on blood thinners because you have a clot history or something in your history for that, you want to be careful about taking fish oil. So let's talk about brands. Since this isn't a CE class, I can talk about brands. So if you go to any of the health food stores, Nordic Naturals is both what Debbie and I take. There's a couple other professional brands that are really good, but generally the general public has a hard time getting a hold of those. So the ones you have access to, Nordic Naturals is a great source, and they have different varieties. So there's two main components to fish oil. One is EPA, another is DHA. EPA is super great for cardiovascular support, and DHA is what I use for brain health. So in the research, it's the one that crosses the blood-brain barrier more easily, and it supports neuroinflammation in a better way than EPA does. And so Nordic Naturals has a specific DHA brand. They also have something called algae. So where if you are vegetarian, vegan, allergic to seafood, vegetarian, I said all this, they make an algae product. So it has a decreased dose in it. So it's not going to have as high of a dose as their other products because it's not made out of fish, it's made out of algae. But it's a great alternative, and it's better than flaxseed. So a lot of people who are allergic to seafood will use flax oil, which doesn't have EPA or DHA in it. It's a different component that is anti-inflammatory, but it's not as high dose. And so it doesn't have as significant of an effect. Words are getting caught in that. Other brands that you can look at are Barleans or Carlson, and Barleans has different flavors that you can use, strawberry, lemon, if that is a barrier. In my opinion, with any type of natural medicine, is take it however you want to take it. However it gets into your body. Like if you like teas, great, we can do teas. If you like tinctures, great, we'll do tinctures. If you like pills, we can do pills. But however you can actually take it. So we're going to take a moment and share our self-care routine. So you get an idea as providers. We both strongly believe in the importance, especially as providers, to do self-care. So my routine looks like I'm an early to bedder. So I go to bed probably at 9 and usually asleep by 9:30. So I do watch TV because I'm a busy bee and I need to decompress with it. Like I can't read, I need to just go somewhere else for a little while. So usually I watch an hour or two and it's off by 8 o'clock. And then I'll do some reading. take a cup of magnesium or tea, take my supplements and meds for the night. And then sometimes I take a bath depending on where I'm at. And then I'll get into bed and turn all the lights off, put my phone in the kitchen. And then I do have a Nook. So my Nook has a setting where there's no blue light coming through it. And I read off my Nook, and I use fantasy novels because they're like 5th grade reading level, and I don't have to think very hard, and I could skip like 5 pages and still follow the story. And it calms my nervous system down because I'm not reading a medical textbook. I'm not reading about someone's life. I can stop it at any point and I'll figure out what the teenage kids are getting into the next night. And so that's how I calm my system down, because I need an activity. Like the idea of just listening to music often doesn't work for me because I'm very busy. But I will listen to binaural beats if I can't get to sleep right away, which gets you into delta waves. So I will bring my phone in for that, but keep it on airplane mode so I'm not engaging with the world and the Wi-Fi is off. And so still using some techniques to reduce the exposure from the phone. And then I'm usually asleep 9 or 9:30, and then I'm up somewhere between 6 and 7:30, depending on the day, sometimes 5. And it depends. So I have a part-time job that requires me to leave my house at 5:30, and I do not do a morning breakfast. So I do it in the car. I breathe in the car, I eat my breakfast in the car, because that is what has to happen that early in the morning. I can't get up at 4 a.m. That's not going to happen. So I work with myself, right? Like knowing that's not a possibility. It's like, okay, well, we're going to put in some gentle music because I can't listen to anything else that early in the morning. And I'm going to eat my breakfast, but I'm going to try and really breathe and allow that to happen. And then on the days I don't have to get up that early, I meditate for about 10 minutes. I have a medicine bundle I work with, and so I do a practice with that. And then I'll do some breathing work that's called fire breathing, with quicker breathing to move stuck energy out of my body. And I'll often journal both at night and in the morning, depending on where my emotional state is, to really bring myself into center. And then I often open, I'm going to call it sacred space, but I'll intentionally open my room, my treatment room, before I see patients for the day, to really call in a different, a really centered, grounded experience for me. How about you, Debbie?
Well, so at night, I do my best to get in bed by 10. So we generally eat between 5 and 6 o'clock. So I'm generally not eating anything after 6:30, except, water, whatnot. About 8 o'clock, I generally do a tea. I take an herbal tea. It's Tulsi and ashwagandha tea. And I usually put an herb in there called Triphala. It's an Ayurvedic herb. And then about 8:30, between 8:30 and 9, I'm heading upstairs. I do a little routine, normal stuff. I do massage my feet with warm oil at night, and I do apply essential oils at my feet, and I do diffuse as I'm going to sleep as well by my bedside. Try to be in bed by 10. And then in the morning, I get up at 5:45, at least that's when my alarm goes off. I try to be up by 6 every morning, even on the weekends. Sometimes the weekends it can push to 6:30, but I really try to keep it within the 30 minutes. I then will do some sort of exercise, and that might be, I have a treadmill, and so I'll either get on the treadmill and walk a couple miles, or I do a 15-minute kind of cardio weights, kind of it wouldn't be a HIIT training because I have to modify it. I am not a runner and I don't do bouncy exercise, so modify it, but I do weights because I do want my mitochondria to be strong and healthy, and I want a lot of them. So Then after that, I do what is called an Avayanga, and that is another Ayurvedic self-care modality with a medicated oil. I heat it up and I do a self-massage. So I just rub the warm oil all over. I put on really scaggy clothes because I don't want to touch anything else. And then I will either do yoga or I will meditate for 15, 20 minutes. Then I jump in the shower, get ready for work, have my breakfast. And then what I'm trying to incorporate is another 5 or 10 minutes, maybe 15 minute, either I do heart math or some sort of other meditation in the afternoon, because I just generally need another calming. It's, we talked about resting your body and then energizing, and you want the recovery. And recovery is stopping to breathe, stopping to listen to music, going out on a nature walk, anything that you can do to disconnect with what was going on. And then you can come back more sane. So really trying to get that in. Sometimes the afternoons get away from me, happens to the best of us. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what I do. And it is a routine that I do.
Beautiful. So this is us. If you want to write down our contact information, I offer free 15-minute consults. If you have a specific health question, you can certainly follow me on Instagram or post about brain health and classes that I run. But I'm always happy to meet with someone and chat about my approach to medicine. I do take insurance. I also work with people outside of the state of Oregon. So if you know someone that is in need of kind of just a health consult, I do that as well. I just don't act as a physician in that role. Debbie?
Yeah, I can work with anybody all around the world. Most of my, well, since this last year and a half, most everything that I do is online these days. And so I can help anybody from any state. Anywhere. You can follow me on my website. I actually have a Facebook group or page, and that is Simply Healed by Debbie. So you can find it under just Simply Healed by Debbie, and Instagram. And I also do, I do consultations, free consultations for those exploring whether or not they want to work with a health coach.
Beautiful. And we are going to send out an email with some resources. So we'll make sure to re-put our contact information from all 4 of us in that. And we are going to move on. So Lauren, do you want to verbally announce the winners of the raffle?
Yeah. So the raffle winners, so for the 30-minute consultation with Dr. Wilson, the winner is Marianne McNally. For Debbie Moss's stress relieving essential oil kit, the winner is Deborah Cox. For the 30-minute team building conflict resolution consultation with Dr. Abington, the winner is William Cohen. And for Lauren Christensen's scenario training template, the winner is Marcy Galagos.
Beautiful.
So
sorry.
We'll each contact you directly and for the raffle prize.
So now, if you have any question for us, we'll stay on as long as you guys have questions. There's no questions in the chat, so you're more than welcome to raise your hand and unmute and ask it verbally or place it in the chat.
Also a reminder that there is an evaluation form for this workshop, so please fill it out when you have a chance and get it back to us so that we can improve on the next workshop and get better and better for you all.
So any questions? Don't be shy. There is no dumb questions.
I'll start singing again. You better ask your questions.
Thanks, Brian.
No worries. If you guys do have any questions at a later time, you could always reach out to us. You'll have all of our information when we email out the resources. Thanks, Marcy. Okay. I see Remy's typing. Thanks, Stacy.
I feel
And
like I'm sorry. I feel like if we don't have questions, it's because you guys gave us really great information, right? And you covered all the bases. But as a presenter, I know that when you don't get questions, it's kind of disappointing. So you're like,
no, that would be great. If we've answered everything, then we've done our job.
exactly.
And sometimes questions come up later. And again, we will, be sending out. I'll be sending out personally some functional medicine sheets on. It's like a food journal that has all the different colors that you can do a few days and see. It shows you, are you missing certain colors? Are you like avoiding a certain color and are not even aware of it, right? And it also tells what the different colors are good for, all the different antioxidants and such. And I don't know what else we're sending out, but I know that that's what I'm sending out. Oh yes, and my the tea, oh my gosh, why can't I say
The
it?
turmeric, where Debbie has a great recipe, and
Yeah, it's on my website, but we'll include it.
And I've done a couple of blog articles, so I will include direct links to those from my website, so you can read about turmeric and ashwagandha and fish oil.
And I take all three of those supplements. When she said those are the ones I'm talking about, I'm like, oh, well, that's good, because I take those.
So I do actually have a question, because I'm one of those, Debbie, you were saying, hey, routine, make sure you have stuff written down, or you know what you're going to do every morning. So here's the thing. In the past, probably 5 months, I have written out my intention of how I want to start my day. And I've revamped it a couple different times, because I'm like, okay, I wrote it out and it's been 4 weeks and I haven't actually started it. And again, I wrote it out, it's been 4 weeks and I haven't actually started it. So what would you recommend to actually, it's all there. I know what I need to do. I just don't start it. So, do you guys have any recommendations?
Break it down into really small steps.
Okay.
As an example, let's say you want to walk every day after work. I know this isn't a morning, but this is just an example. And you just, by the time you get home, you throw your things down and you sit on the couch like, yeah, I'm not working out. So some things that I can suggest is bring your workout clothes with you, just leave them in your car so you can change, and then you're already in them. Or every day that you get home from work, just put your shoes on. Whether you decide to go out and walk or not is one thing, but at least you put your tennis shoes on, right? Do something to promote that next step. What is it that you have to do to promote you in that direction? And it can be wild and crazy. So your morning, I don't know what your morning that you want it to look like, but perhaps what is it that you have to set in your environment to trigger that, or to make it an easy transition into there? Is there something in your environment that you can change? Is there, there's a lot of different things that you can do, and then just pick one aspect of it. And once you start on that, then other aspects will reveal themselves and come about more naturally. Because when you try to just change things flat out, this is what I want to do, but you can't do it, you really need to break it down into easier bites. And it could be that part of that breaking it down is just setting up something in your environment to trigger that you go that way.
So I can offer 2 other things. So I'm not rigid at all with my routine, but I also know the self-care stuff I use really well. So I don't write a schedule. I do it or I don't do it. I don't push myself around. And there is something about not getting rigid in the same routine, because we can become habitual and we're not actually engaging and building awareness inside that. It's like going to work. And so changing it up is important too. The other piece I'm going to share is something I did with a patient who was like, she was dealing with trying to unpack some trauma, and she's like, I can't even make a decision of what to do. So if that's part of the experience, what we created is she made a list of all the tools that she has, like go for a walk, make a cup of tea, like all those things, some of the things we talked about today. And then she cut them up and put them in a bowl. And she just pulls one. And she uses the tool, so she doesn't have to actually choose. She like just goes with whatever she picks out of the bowl.
That's cool.
As a health coach, what we try to do is give the client tools that they have in their toolbox, because let's say you're doing whatever, you're on a bad phone call or whatever, you can't really do your deep breathing necessarily then, but what else can you be doing? What is in your toolbox that you can use at any different time? So you should have multiple things available to you to be able to do in different arenas of your life or different situations in your life. So you build that toolbox, like using an essential oil you can use while you're on a phone call and breathing it in deeply while you're listening. Or if it's something like, I really want to work out and I need to do this, well, what are some different things that you can do to get yourself ready for that? Just putting your shoes on and getting in the habit of just putting your shoes on. That's it. Do that for a week. You have succeeded in at least doing that. So there's just a bunch of different tools that you can put together at your fingertips, and everybody's different.
Yeah, and I would say one of the things that I've been working with personally, because my schedule is so packed, and it's just like, I don't have time to add space for a new self-care thing, is pairing it with something you're already doing. So if you already make coffee in the morning, maybe actually like, what does the coffee taste like? Really bringing awareness into drinking the coffee and not creating a whole new routine, because a lot of people just shut down. They're like, well, I'm too tired. There's too much going on. I can't do that. And so they won't do anything. But use what you already have on board and then add a little bit more awareness or understanding around it. Like, what does coffee taste like? What does it make my body feel like?
That's a form of meditation. That is so what I didn't say during nutrition, I meant to, and I didn't, is how you eat is as important as what you're eating. So you don't want to be on the run, eating while you're going to a meeting or whatnot. You want to actually sit down and enjoy what's in front of you. You usually eat less, you're usually more mindful of what you're eating. And that is almost a practice of a form of meditation right there. It's just being mindful of what you're doing right now. And eating is important because that will shift you into that parasympathetic state so that you're actually digesting your food. So how you eat and how you do things is as important as doing those things and what you're eating.
Remy had a great suggestion that he put in the chat. He says, Age Celebrations 53rd Avenue Community Pickleball is a great way to exercise. Check their days and hours. If you're in the area, it's fun, and also network with a bunch of people. I tried and was seated.
Sweating?
Was it sweating?
Sweating,
After a few minutes, sweating after a few minutes.
Yeah,
Thank you,
no,
Remy.
find something fun.
It's fun. It's encouraging because you're with people. So it's like, if you don't feel like it where you're there, so you don't have much of a choice. They do it in the morning, evenings. There's a few days a week. I would go more if I was closer, but I'm in Scappoose, so I'm a little far.
Yeah.
Stacy, did your question get answered?
Yes, thank you for all the recommendations.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we're good then. And then we are going to close with Linda's piano again. Are we ready for that, Dr. Remington?
Yes, if there are no other questions amongst this group. And I don't see anyone saying anything. So Linda, go ahead with your last selection, and thank you all for coming.